So I've already talked about this screenshot that I'm posting right here. All men benefit from the actions of violent men. It keeps women in check. It allows men to perform the barest minimum and still feel good about themselves. The existence of violent men grants good men awards for basic decency. I talked about this, but another content creator seized in on it and made a thread about it. So we're going to discuss the thread. Okay, so this is Omalola's take on this thread. She says, also, while not all men will be violently misogynistic, all men benefit from the actions of violently misogynistic men and from institutionalized male entitlement. They didn't ask to be born male, so I can't blame them for that, but I can blame them for capitalizing on it. Then she has a thread. She says, you didn't ask for your parents to make your sisters do most of the chores and cater to you, but you didn't exactly refuse that privilege either, or apologize, or even admit you benefited at the expense of your siblings. Now, this can honestly go for other groups where there is oppression and privilege, because some people are not born with a certain skin color, but they do benefit from it simply by being the opposite of the oppressed people. So just keep in mind that there are scales of privilege and oppression, and it goes for several demographics of people. Okay, so Omalola continues. There is a family I know. They were well to do, two working professional parents, lawyers actually. The father was or is an SAN. I do not know what an SAN is. She says they sent their son to the best private schools in Nigeria, then abroad for uni as the son. The daughters got sent to good enough schools for secondary school and then kept in Nigerian public universities, not because the parents could only afford to send one child abroad, but because the others were girls. The son didn't choose to be born male, but he benefited from being born with the ping. The daughters were deprived of opportunities that were well curated to ensure the male child gets the best chances to optimize his potential in life. He will not think much of how these choices already set him ahead of his siblings. He will not think he owes anyone any apology. He will just live his life, positioned to have the kind of access his sisters may never have. So, yes, all men benefit from a world set up to consider them, their feelings, their potentials, their lives first. The male children who got to live because their parents smorted every female child or did not register the existence of the female children due to the one child policy in China did not ask for it. So she's switching topics here. But in China, we know that male children are edified and elevated over girl children. And that's one of the reasons why there are so many more men right now than women. And that's one of the reasons why women right now in China in these highly patriarchal societies are opting out, because they know that simply being born with a uterus means that you're supposed to be the caretaker of the household. And in some of these highly patriarchal countries, they're supposed to be the caretakers of their in-laws. So they know that being born with a uterus equates to being born a servant. Omalola continues with, but it's not like they grew up and went, oh, that was terrible. Let's join women in righting this wrong. No, they were busy arresting feminists in China, lobbying for gaming companies to fire a female staff, trying to undo whatever liberties the women that survive still have. Now, at this point, I think she is confusing some of the things that happened in South Korea. South Korea is highly anti feminist, where women cutting their hair can lead to backlash, like getting harmed in a violent way, simply if they think that you're feminist. Now I'm going to shift to this tweet thread from Sho Bolu. She says, being in a relationship with her doesn't mean you own her body. No means no. And I don't know where Sho Bolu is out of. I don't know the country, but this hashtag is hashtag sirens in her bold against SA. We are still globally trying to come to a consensus that consent is not a blanket thing. That just because you get consent once doesn't mean that there's blanket consent. Or just because a woman or girl didn't say no doesn't mean there isn't coercion. We do need to talk about coercion more. We need to talk about how some people hang things over women and girls' head. If you don't do this, there could be violence. If you don't do this, I will not give you some money that you need for X, Y, and Z. If you do not do this, I will leave you on the side of the road. If a woman or girl is doing something because she fears that her life or her safety is in jeopardy, that is not consent. So we need to talk more about coercion, and like how not saying no, how people not saying no doesn't necessarily mean that that is a yes. But this is the picture. I'm just blowing it up bigger. So it just says being in a relationship with her doesn't mean you own her body. Women and girls are our own autonomous humans. We are not owned by anybody. And being in a relationship does not mean that you have an owner. We're no longer slaves, and we shouldn't have been slaves in the first place, but we do not have owners. Here are the pamphlets she was showing. I'm not sure what Siren is, but this is her organization. So here's Hart. Hart seems to take exception, and Hart has a picture of a woman. I'm not sure if this is actually a woman or what, but Hart says being in a relationship with him doesn't mean he owes you money. No means no. So once again, a person equating or comparing sexual consent to money, it's so distressing. This is such a terrible comparison. Shobolu responds with, being in a relationship with him means he owes me respect, loyalty, support, healthy communication, fidelity, love. I owe him these same things. What I do not owe him is my body. I feel sorry for you because it looks like you've had to buy all of your relationships. She says, I went on the road today and couldn't believe the thought process of most of these men. They were chanting, say no SA of all forms. They're replying with, don't wear mini skirts. Then when you ask them if they would feel comfortable with men touching them like that, they go mute. A man responds with, did you ask them if they would be comfortable if women touched them like that? Now, before you come for me, we need to be fair in our questionings, even to the grape apologists whose views I certainly do not share. And she says, yes, I actually asked what they would do if a woman touched them like that. They said they wouldn't mind. In fact, I will raise you one higher. We asked them to report whenever they see a case of a woman graping a man. They said they would rather enjoy the woman than report her. And so that is the difference between consent. Consent is an active yes. So they would consent to touching. That is the reason why she used the example of a man touching them, because that would mean that they do not have consent. That's the reason why you can't just flip genders like that, because men are not going to see a like a woman touching them in the same way as a woman seeing a random man touching them or graping them. So, Promise, I'm not sure if he is explaining, excusing, or what with this comment. He says, you should already know. Some men are not loved at home. Decent dressing is a moral related standard. Grape is a criminal offense. M in the box says, they know it's wrong and are protected by lawlessness of the country. That is why they are all animals. Need more people to normalize calling men animals because that's what they are. So that is what M in the box says. So these are a couple of conversations that we need to continue to have. How silence is complicit behavior, how it's accepting because you're doing nothing about it, and how we need to continue to talk about what coercion and consent are so that we can protect ourselves. And it is very challenging because women are clearly unprotected globally. We're not, because so many people look the other way, because we haven't gotten to the point where we recognize that women and girls are not owned by someone. So if you're going to get to the point where being in a relationship means that someone has ownership of you, why would women and girls consent to even being in relationships? And folks are wondering why the birth rate and the marriage rates are declining globally. All right, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about these two tweet threads. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.